What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Comics and Crypto, your source for everything collectible. We're very excited for today's episode. We have the incredible RoachWrites on today. We're going to be chatting about his upcoming comic release on Solana. Really excited to get into it. What's going on, man? How are you?
What's up?
What's up, guys? Thank you for having me. I've been following you guys and obviously everything comics and crypto related in Web3 for the last few years. So yeah, super stoked to hop on here and get into it.
Hell yeah. Well, before we get into all the cool stuff you got going on, I want to give a few updates here. We, as a lot of you know, have released a token over the last basically week. It's, I think yesterday was its week anniversary. So, brand new. But just to give a few quick updates, yesterday we did a token buyback live on our stream. So we purchased $500 worth of our token that we plan to use for business development purposes. We're going to be using those for, giveaways. We're going to be using those for, hopefully maybe some airdrops in the future, depending on where the token goes, using those, with different partners in order to fund partnerships to create really cool utilities for you guys. So, that is something, continually building our war chest, as we, continue to get more creator funds in from you guys trading our token. We put the CA on our website, the contract address for everybody so you can find it now, in addition to our Twitter. We did a really cool giveaway yesterday of a Todd McFarlane NFT that was released on the Drip platform. We gave away the Spawn #1, the version variant, to one of our holders. We did that live on stream. So congrats to the holder that won that. If you're the one who won that, let us know. We'd love to chat with you. And yeah, we have a new sponsor that we're going to be announcing in a few days that we're very, very excited about. More updates on that soon. And then, yeah, really just talking to a bunch of different partners in the background right now to create as much utility for the token as possible. So yeah, that's kind of a quick update there. What's up, Ghosty? What's going on? But yeah, without further ado, I think let's get into it. So yeah, Roach, why don't you give us kind of just a brief background on your background in the comic industry, both traditional and then kind of what made you take the leap into Web3?
Yeah, man, let's do it. Before I do, real
Sure.
boomer question here: can I stream this on my Twitter account, or can I connect
totally.
it?
Yeah.
But how? Maybe
so do you have StreamYard?
I do, and if it's a pain in the ass to get it going in the background now, then we can.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if you
just retweet it, that might be the best way to do it. Retweet our.
If you log into your StreamYard, and you're like all set up there, then there should be an option just to restream to your channels through there.
But yeah, you just got to look at the bottom.
Yeah, usually it's in the top right corner, but yeah, if you see it.
All right, I don't see anything, so we're gonna skip that. But yeah, appreciate you holding my.
Yeah, we'll be more prepared next time on that front.
No, that was my fault. But yeah, man. So thank you guys for having me on. So, what was the question? My background. So I come from indie comics. I've been making comics for almost like 15 years now. I started, I think as a lot of my peers in that time frame, started with crowdfunding. Kickstarter, I think, allowed for almost like this indie comic renaissance over the last decade. So I did that. That was extremely exciting, and I think there's a lot of parallels that we could talk about when it comes to Kickstarter and crowdfunding and how that was kind of looked at, honestly, as like a lesser form of comics back 10 years ago, versus nowadays when you got Boom Studios, major Keanu Reeves, like A-listers going on there to utilize it. And I think, Web3 is going to follow something very, very, very similar, honestly. I think we're kind of in the middle of that now, so we can get into that. But yeah, so I did that thing. I did crowdfunding. I had a few successful projects, self-published. I had some of my stuff picked up from the Kickstarter campaign and had it published with small press publishers. You guys may have heard, the guys at Scout Comics. Action Lab. Actually, I had to claw one of my IPs back from Action Lab when they were going down.
Oh wow!
I don't know if they're around now. I think they declared bankruptcy 5-6 years ago, but something to that effect. So I did all that stuff
to get that back.
Yeah, it was tough, man. I know a lot of people had to fight and actually take them to court. Luckily, mine was a little bit smoother, just for reasons. So I did that stuff, signed in empty comic book shops. I tabled New York Comic Con one time and one time only, and that was in 2021. I think when most creators probably didn't want to go. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that's like still like COVID times. Yeah,
yeah, they opened up the back.
that must have been a pretty sad show.
It was actually pretty good.
Was
The
it?
saddest part was that who was it? I won't say who it was, but somebody was doing a signing, and their line was just straight up blocking my table, and I couldn't talk to anybody to get that fixed. So
Oh.
I won't say who that was. Not that it was their fault, but any event, that was a good show. My probably one and only time tabling there. But I've been doing it, for about 15 years, mostly my own creator-owned stuff. And Web3, kind of a couple years back, I don't know what brought you guys to the space, but for me, I was playing around the last bull cycle with the super high APY, 30,000% APY plays, those owned DAO, that type of stuff. And I quickly learned, like, you know what? This NFT thing, like, there's something there for comics, there's something there for creators and art and storytelling. And that's when I kind of found Solana. And I think actually at that time, Comic Voxels was one of the only other projects that were strictly comic related back then. I think it was Josh Blaylock and some other names. And they were on Ethereum. And my biggest problem there was during a bull market. I mean, you guys probably remember, right? The gas fees to mint a $10 comic, you're not going to get anybody in the mainstream to do that if they have to pay another $30 on top of it for gas fees. So I quickly found Solana, and I saw the art that was happening there, the artist community that was going on, and pretty much people were going to Solana for the cheaper fees, and it was much cheaper at the time, even in the token price, and just, it was cheap to experiment on and play around with and figure shit out. And I think developers ran there. Creators, artists ran there. I found myself there. And actually somebody I did talk to on Ethereum back then, a developer, was saying, why would you go to Solana? You could stay where the money is. And, cut to now, 3 or 4 years later, obviously the money is still in Ethereum, and now it's just heavily, I think Solana has come a long, long way. So I definitely made the right choice there.
Yeah.
On my end. So I came into the space, I started thinking about interactive storytelling, like using NFTs for that. But there was just a lack of products at the time. So I think around 2022, I started thinking, what could a comic book platform look like? What would a perfect platform look like? And I quickly met some other folks around that time, and I co-founded a platform. So we actually started building that. We built a startup. We did a lot of really great things. We focused on indie creators and smaller brands to lead the charge. And we focused a lot on the collectible features. So we did some dope shit, on-chain signatures, unwrapping the comic to read it, which would add wear and tear to the cover art, really some unique features that are very novel. So during that startup life, I kind of, I traveled to different tech conferences. I pitched to VCs, shit that I wasn't necessarily doing in the comic book space prior, but we were thrown into the mix, right? We're just trying to build something that I think the space and artists need. It was tooling that I would have wanted to use, right?
Yeah.
I'd even had, several calls and an IRL meetup last New York Comic-Con with Todd McFarlane. We sat in the hotel lobby. He was interested in hearing about what we were working on. So that never came to fruition, but we had, I connected with him last year, which was really cool. In the end, I think that platform was it was too degen for the Web 2 space, not quite degen enough for Web 3, and it failed. We didn't raise enough funding, so we had to go our separate ways. But I'm definitely just super proud of the swing we took, the chance we took. I learned a whole lot. And coming to now, after a few months of crying after that, the platform failed, which is the nature of startups, right? You gotta. Most of them fail, and even in comics, most IP just doesn't go anywhere. But I've come back to, I guess, full circle moment here of realizing, I want to get back to creating, to developing IP for myself with other artists and with other brands that I've connected with who want to play around in the digital collectible space, but then also do stuff in the print world, in the publishing world, and in the crowdfunding world.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was an awesome intro. A lot to unpack there.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
So, I mean, I guess maybe going back to what you were saying around Kickstarter, I love what you're saying, kind of the analogy of where things are going, kind of being similar to that. I definitely agree there. But I think it's almost it's like Kickstarter on steroids, because it's Kickstarter in a dynamic long-term way where you can normally Kickstarter current state, it's you give out your perks to the people who buy, and then that's it. and then it kind of stops there. I mean, there's ways to continually engage, but it usually stops there. But with Web3, you can offer tokens or NFTs, and then have, you know, that all of that traced on chain, and be able to continually, you know, either engage those people, or, you know, reward those people, and do it in a dynamic way as, you know, as people's token balances change, you know. So I think there's a lot of really cool things that I think are coming, that I think you're definitely right on what you said around that. Yeah. But I guess another thing that you mentioned, I guess going back to your startup, I mean, so Sean and I have been talking about like on-chain signatures for years now. Like, that is something that we are so excited about, and I've seen a couple companies who've done it, but it sounds like the way that you were doing it. Could you explain kind of just like I guess like the way and like the format that you guys were doing it?
Yeah, so as a non-developer, I'm going to butcher it, and I'm going to try. I don't know if I could multitask, but I could send you kind of a GIF or kind of a quick demo of it, maybe that you can share. But let me see if I can do that while I'm talking. But so one of our devs actually even enabled, and he built a Discord bot that would allow somebody who held the comic book, the NFT, to request a signature from the creator. And as long as they were all in the Discord, just with the click of a button, it would automatically do the transaction behind the scenes. So what we would do is there wouldn't be unique signatures. Not everyone's going to be different. We were going to get to that, but we just obviously couldn't. But we would have the creators upload a remark, a digital signature, whatever it might be, that we would have in our database. So when somebody did request a signature, and the creator might have, you know, you use it as a tool as a creator, right? You want to reward people, but at the same time, if I'm putting out a Twitter post or something and I want to get some engagement, like, hey guys, you know, help me out. Anybody who retweets in this next hour or two, I'm going to be in Discord signing comics, and come through. Just let me know, and I'll sign the comic for you. And so we built that mechanism right there in Discord to allow for that quick functionality to happen. And then I guess that the cover image with the digital signature would then update the metadata, and then it would just swap out the image. So your NFT image would then be replaced with the signature image. And then the metadata would be signed yes versus signed no.
That's cool. Yeah, we like I said, we've been talking about this for years. But like the dream is to be able to like go to Comic-Con and then take one of my like digital comics on VeVe or Candy Digital and go up to that artist and have them, you know, digitally sign it on, you know, an iPad or something like that. But then that actually gets recorded and
we did it with Rob Liefeld, and he was actually he was nerding out over it. You're right. It was just like more of a screenshot, but the fact that
literally just had him sign
his video doing it. Todd McFarlane's done it as well, and we did it with Donnie Cates, but he was just more. He was a bit of a hater on it, honestly.
Yeah. Well, that gets into I mean, you know, and I'd be curious. I don't know if it's a side topic, but I'd be curious your journey into the space. And you said Donnie, you know, you called him out for. Not called him out in a bad way, but you said he was being a hater on it. Yeah. I wonder, you know, I know I wouldn't say burnt bridges, but I'd have creators, fellow collaborators, you know, ghost me when they figured out, oh, he's working in the Web3 space, you know, based on just headlines and other narratives from the past cycle, which are kind of legitimate. You know, there are tons of scams, rugs all the time. Totally. I get it. But if you only read the headline and don't dive deep, I think we've dug a lot deeper, right? But guys like that seem to have not. So I don't know. Had you had anybody ghost you? Any bad experiences that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like we're definitely coming to the comic space more from a collector standpoint, you know, less, you know, a creator standpoint. But I mean, I guess my journey into Web3, I discovered it. My friend David in college introduced me to crypto in like 2017. It was like summer 2017, and he was just like, "Hey, like prices have just gone up like crazy. You should check this thing out." You know, and then just as an investor got into it, but you know, very quickly saw what kind of an impact it could really have on the world in a positive way, and so you know, kind of have dedicated a lot of my professional life since then towards kind of just pursuing this and trying to educate people and grow the space, but also, you know, as an investor, but, you know, found NFTs very, very early in like 2018. So I think the experience that you've had on Solana of, you know, low gas fees and things being crazy cheap and all that, I kind of I had that opportunity with Ethereum, you know, way back in the day when that was first starting out. And I remember, you know, spending, you know, pennies on gas fees, which now if you equate that to today's money is you don't, if I just kept all that ETH and never spent any of that, I'd be so set. But you don't want to think about that. I had a lot of fun experimenting with a lot of stuff, back in the day, like early Axie Infinity and crypto kitties and all that stuff. I knew about punks and totally faded at the time. Obviously a huge mistake. But yeah, I mean, I kind of found NFTs through that a lot through like early gaming projects. And then, fast forward, I guess right around that time or right before that time that I discovered crypto, I met Sean in a hostel in Prague. We were both traveling through Europe, and he was really into comics. And I guess fast forward a couple years ago, after stayed friends, he started teaching me about comics. I started teaching him about crypto, and so really from a collector financial perspective. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into that. But then we discovered VeVe, and kind of the intersection of comics and NFTs and crypto through that. And then Sean, I don't know, maybe you can take it from there. I'm talking.
Yeah, I mean, but to backtrack a little bit to your question, we have met artists, especially ones who've done original covers on VeVe and stuff. They're kind of, it was more of a job to them. They weren't really into it. And we've talked to other artists about it too, about the potential.
I think some of them didn't even realize what the cover was being used for necessarily.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's a bit of a mixed bag, but once we explain to them the potential, especially royalties, I mean, that's when they start realize, oh wait, what? You get royalties every time it resells? Well, yeah, it's a big part of Web3 and why you get a lot of power back to the creators, which is a really big deal. And especially a lot of artists that work for Marvel and DC, they don't get any royalties at all based off any of the IP that they work on.
Yeah, I mean, if they didn't create the character, yeah, definitely not. Yeah,
like we met a few artists that have their statues on VeVe, and they don't get any royalties for it. The ones that they created, and it's yeah. Like Rockerfruit, we met, who created the Superman statue on VeVe. It's the first appearance of Superman, and he didn't even know it was being released on the platform. And it's not. And this is not negative towards VeVe. It's 100% towards DC because it's technically their IP. Yeah. And it's their collectible, but they're not communicating to the artists at all about it, and they're not giving them any royalties for that. And that really kind of bothered me because I feel like this is a huge opportunity to get back to the creators, but they're still figuring out ways to make money for themselves. But I feel like there's enough for everyone to win, and I really hope that it transitions to that in the future.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And it's so new that I think DC and, they've done these licensing deals with the VeVe and whomever. And, well, it's multifold, right? The space is so new that the back end isn't built to the point where those royalties from, so the publisher creates the account, the publisher has their wallet that receives royalties. Now, in the contract with the creator, are they eligible for, X amount of the percent of the sales? If they are, then you would need another a slashing of that royalties to drop down into multiple other wallets, which is definitely a pain in the ass, especially if it's in more of a centralized platform like a VeVe or like a distillery, which we can get into what they're doing, because on the digital signature side, they were doing that, and they've shit on NFTs, right? But they're pretty much a private blockchain, or a mock chain, as I like to call them. So they're taking all the benefits of digital collectibles, and they're doing it, the distillery guys with Neon Ichiban, they're doing it in their own private database, which to me, it's whatever, right? Good. It's going to educate the industry on what digital collectibles are. The secondary market, they have all that stuff built in. I think that's really cool. But to your point, Sean, like just the fact that the tech and the education for like these licensors, I guess, to want these royalties to be split down to for them to worry about the creators and worry about everyone getting their slice. I think they just don't get it yet. And it's just the platform's moving, trying to do their own thing. They don't want to hold hand the publisher. So it's complicated. And there's a lot of stuff that we were dealing with, as we were building from the bottom up, with indie creators and small brands. Like we were really trying to do it creator first versus big brand first, because Marvel, DC have FU money, right? So they're not necessarily, they have teams on teams of teams in their the staff that works there, so they're not necessarily worried about these minute details that we're talking about. It's sad. It sucks.
And
it's especially a shame because like all this stuff is possible on chain. Like this all could be done. You get the right wallets for everybody. Everything can just be done automatically in perpetuity. So yeah, hopefully we get more of that. VeVe, Candy Digital, the big guys. If you guys are listening, I think everybody would love to see that. I mean, not just the people who are going to benefit from it financially and the creators who actually contribute to the IP, but I think all of us fans and all of us people who consume it would also love to see that too.
Absolutely, set a new standard.
Yeah.
And you get everyone excited about Web3. In my opinion, at least, because you have artists will start talking about it. They'll be happy about it because they're getting at least some of the royalties, and then they have a positive outlook on it. And I think that's where you start that positive domino effect. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, you're talking dude, I spent 2 years trying to do that. Like that's the platform I was trying to build, and we were just I would always tell myself we're not too early, we're just right, but I think we're still just too early.
I think so.
Some of the almost landing Todd as a investor, that was almost that would have been pretty great.
Yeah.
And then I was talking with a couple of friends of mine who they're well-known Web2 artists, and they were somewhat interested until I could tell somebody might have, poison pilled them and they stopped talking to me. But just a few of those bigger guys to do it the right way, that's all it takes. And I won't say, I was going to mention some other names of people who are kind of doing some stuff, but I don't know if it's publicly a on-chain platform. I think it's just the back end, so I won't say it. I'll talk to you guys maybe off air about what I was just going to say.
Yeah. I mean, I think all that plus also coupled with the fact that Ethereum doesn't enforce royalties, at the actual contract level, it's or at the exchange level rather. So it's it just makes it tough within that ecosystem to also do it unless somebody builds an L3 or an L2 that does enforce that, which then it has to be a permission chain, so then that brings up other issues. But so that whole ecosystem, it's a little bit of a struggle when it comes to enforcing that kind of stuff, which obviously is just a whole other layer on top of all these other things we just talked about. But yeah, really quickly I want to shout out some people in the audience. We got Sleeping Comics in the house.
Yeah, let's go.
Sean's rocking the Sleeping Comics hat right now. He's another amazing content creator in the space talking about comics and digital comics, and also just has a killer physical collection and a stand-up guy.
Yeah,
can't forget that.
You got to lead with that.
We'll call you JTTB. What's going on? We got the Holy for Holy in the house. And I guess maybe we can have you address this real quick. So I think you talked about this a little bit before, but why Solver is another chain that you're launching on?
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing at first. Was the speed and the fees were just minuscule. Even today we can, when I drop a comic next week, the fees are going to be 25 cents, maybe, if that, and don't hold me to that. It'll be something to that effect, so in a bull market. And when you had, this mainstream adoption mentality, it's got to be something that you can't expect someone to pay double the price of the comic to pay the gas fee. So that was one of the biggest drivers. And then, dude, the artist community on Solana and even the events that they throw, that are very art focused. I shouldn't say very art focused, at least maybe not a few years ago, but now the events are being run by one of the art marketplaces here. And it's a friend of mine, a guy who I know, JT List. He's a dude from Manhattan. I grew up in Brooklyn, so we kind of bonded over that, but he's a longtime artist, and his community does the entire art, or a good portion of the art, and the setting and the vibes, right? That creative culture is embedded into a lot of these Solana events that I think it's just, over the years, just seeing the different artist communities, seeing the different artists just trying to do shit, whether it's comics, whether it's one-of-one art, typewriter art. Like, there's guys doing a little bit of everything, and it's super exciting. And I think more people flocked there who I think missed the ETH bull run, the past cycle.
Sure.
So ETH, I think, is still where the bigger collectors are, and surely probably where a lot of the money is.
Yeah.
But us indie guys, man, I think it's just something about Solana that called to me.
Yeah, that's cool. To be honest, I didn't really know that kind of community existed on Solana. We're relatively new to this whole ecosystem. We've definitely been more ETH focused for the last many years, especially me. But yeah, excited to get into it. So yeah, would love some intros to some of these people and some of these platforms in the space, because we're definitely trying to get more engaged in this ecosystem, because it seems like there's a lot of really cool stuff going on, especially around comics and collectibles.
Yeah, and it's not just art. Look, you have you got the trenchers, you got Pumped Up Fun, you got you got everything on Solana, you know, a little bit of everything, and it does it all well. You know, that's why I think it's one of the biggest growing blockchains out there. I don't know if it's number 5 or 6 at this point by market cap, but good times.
Yeah, definitely. Before we get to our next question, a quick word from our sponsor.
This video is sponsored by Fanable. Fanable is changing the game, combining physical collectibles with digital ownership. Send in your graded comics, cards, video games, VHS, and action figures to be securely stored and insured in a Brinks vault for free, while maintaining full control of your collectibles through blockchain technology. That's right, free shipping, free storage, free insurance. Grab a mystery case from a Fanable kiosk at your shot to unbox a grail, or cash out instantly with their 90% buyback option. It's fast, it's fun, and it's a whole new way to open packs. One collector turned this $250 mystery case into an amazing Fantasy 15 worth $20,000. Secure, manage, and monetize your physical collectibles all in one place. You can download the Fanable app on iOS and Google Play, and also go to fanable.io.
So big shout out to Fanable. So diving a little deeper into Web3, and what do you think about the current state of comics in Web3, like both from a reading and collecting standpoint, and where do you think things are headed? I know we kind of dived a little bit into that. I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, you know, I think the tech, I kind of talked about it a little bit. I think that the tech is going to be baked into the background. And when that happens, right, when you remove the friction, then that's step one, is just removing the friction, you know, and just when you have a baked in wallet, or when you're able to pay with Visa or fiat, I think that's a major part of the battle. You help on the education and the friction side of it. That's step one. Step 2, 3, 4, and 5. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I think VeVe is done. I think they're very well in a good position to lead the charge when it comes to the education side of it. Mm-hmm. Just because of the sheer names and the IP that's on there. I think Distillery, even though, you know, I kind
of the Web 2 onboarding experience too.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing, is the Web 2 onboarding, you know, is to get them on board, is to reduce the friction. And you have these people like, like VeVe or like Distillery, to test the waters and do the education part of it. I think that's going to be huge. But I think it's going to be, you know, again, you're going to need like some of these well-known creators to come on board, but for them to do that, they're going to need to see success. So you're going to need to see experimentation and things like that. Like one of the things that brought me in was the potential for just interactive storytelling or dynamic NFTs. So that's one of the things I do want to get back to now, now that I'm done with the startup platform business side of it, is just developing more of a creative comic studio side that experiments with not just with other, you know, licensed or brand IP, but with my own IP and with other creators to do things like, you know, evolving characters, or, you know, imagine a zombie apocalypse where we had maybe a boutique NFT collection of, you know, 20, 30 characters. Maybe you auction them off, maybe figure out what that looks like. But if the character gets eaten, or, you know, X amount of them get burnt, or you have a main character becomes a badass, like you're able to evolve the NFTs and the art along the way.
Yeah.
And I think we're so early that when the space does catch on, like we're kind of in this period where, who knows, like some of this IP, some of these books, some of these creators are building true provenance now that in 5 or 10 years could be, you know, it could be something.
It's true.
Yeah. Web3 especially, it can be scary for a lot of people. We talked about that earlier, but I think figuring out a way to make it safe but also easy to make the purchases, like you mentioned, I think that's going to be a really big removal of barrier of entry for a lot of collectors. And, you know, and we've talked about this a lot, how digital collecting especially has really opened our eyes to people who've never really collected before ever, but are obsessed with collecting now, because it all started in the digital space. You know, a lot of people who collect worldwide don't necessarily have the opportunity to collect physical collectibles, you know, for like sports cards or Pokemon cards. And I shipped out a bunch of graded Pokemon cards for a friend in England, and it took 6 months to get the package. Like it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So digital collecting has a lot of opportunity to kind of remove all of that, you know, and accessibility is a really big deal.
Yeah. And also just storage. As big physical collectors in addition to digital, we're running out of space. So we like solutions, like especially stuff like Fanable that allows us to still keep and own our collectibles, but have them, safely stored in an insured environment, and but still be able to enjoy them, on our phone or on the computer,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing that's not really talked about again, coming from the creative side is, global, what's the term I'm looking for? Just global payments. We work with collaborators from places where, maybe they can't accept PayPal, or they can't accept, whatever it might be. So they have to you have to figure out creative ways to get them paid. And, there's fees on top of fees on top of fees that come off of it. I think the cross-border payments that are unlocked in the crypto space, it's just a matter of getting a wallet and then off-ramping it and paying whatever those fees are. They're not zero. However, that transaction fee, or that transaction of me paying a collaborator instantaneously, no matter where they are in the globe, is, I think, extremely important. But again, on the other side of that is we go back to, again, like education and friction. You got to tell them how to, download the wallet. What does this all mean? How do I off ramp it? So the rails just aren't quite there yet, but
plus all the scams and everybody, constantly out to get you. And it's a scary place if you don't know what you're doing and you aren't educated.
Yeah, no, it takes a village.
Yeah, definitely.
Even myself, I mean, I've been in the space since 2017. I consider myself very knowledgeable and very safe and risk averse, and I even got all my wallets drained, a couple years ago. Like it happens, so it's you just gotta be
scary, man. It's scary, and that's one of the things we were trying to do, and I think I'm still trying to do, is just build this kind of creator community specifically, and collector, obviously, but creators who want to step into the space, right? And even brands who kind of want to do it, but do it in the right way, and do it with people who've been in the space and are doxed and have a reputation and are, have been doing it. We need to give them a place to land. And I think you guys have a community like that. That's something that we were building. I think the more communities like that exist, are the more the merrier.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned before that, like, you think there needs to be certain players or certain, certain artists or, people who need to step into the space to kind of give it validity or whatever you want to call it. Like, I mean, I feel like we've already had Todd McFarlane, we've already had DC, we've already had Mark, like we've already had a lot of these, huge names step into the space. So like, I guess, what do you think is still missing?
I don't think need might not be the right word, but I think it's just more receipts. Like, you need more and more receipts. Like, one of the bigger things one of my success stories, I think, with the platform was we were able to sell out an indie creator who did the art, the lettering, the writing, like just say all-in-one creator, and a full stack creator, he calls himself. Shout out to Brandon. Wake up, Brandon. He tremendous work. He reminds me of Sean Gordon Murphy with his art, but we were able to sell within, I think it was 36 hours. He sold 500, maybe 600 digital comics, at $10 a piece. 500 comics, not a tremendous amount. In the digital world, though, I think you guys know the traditional digital space, it's all subscription models. It's extremely hard for anyone, let alone an indie creator, to sell that much. So I think stories like that are almost maybe more important to the core group of indie creators than a Todd McFarlane or a DC, because they have, they're big business on some level, right? They have FU money, so they could experiment. They could get rugged. They can make bad deals like they may or may not have done in the last couple of years.
Right.
And that people don't really care because, it's just that company doing what that company is going to do. When a bunch of indie creators start doing stuff and talking about it and talking openly and honest about it, and you can tell we're not scamming, we're doxed, we've been in the space, we've been in the Web 2 space. There's just so much that I think, so much more receipts that need to be, compiled.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I saw this interview from the 90s as Bill Gates on Letterman, and Bill Gates was trying to explain the internet to the audience. And he was explaining how the internet has gotten to a point where you're going to be able to have conversations with people at different parts of the world about your favorite sports team. And you could even listen to the games on the internet. And then Letterman came back and joked about how, haven't you ever heard of the radio? Like, why would you? What do you need the internet for? But I feel like that's a great example of technology that hasn't quite gotten there yet. And I think that's a big reason why, especially for digital collectibles. I mean, it's fun to enjoy them on your phone and on your computers, but I think when technology catches up, there's going to be a need and a desire and a demand for it in a way that's not even close to where it is right now. Because right now it's just like, oh, it's cool, but why do I need it? But I think when that catches up, which it is, and we're seeing it move really quickly. But when it gets to that point, that's when the light bulb is going to go off in a lot of people's heads, which we've seen people independently feel the same way and come up with these theories and ideas. And yeah, I'm excited to see once the technology catches up, especially AR glasses, the metaverse, all that stuff, where people are going to feel like, okay, I need this now. I have to have it in this format. And I'm excited to see that happen.
Yeah, it's almost a chicken and egg problem too. Just keep going back to creators, and I know you guys not keep going, but we talk about collectors, creators, readers, like the chicken and egg. Who's going to come first?
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of something we're trying to solve, and it's a difficult solve. You got to build for both. You know, it's a double-sided marketplace when it comes to your VeVes and your platforms, but that's definitely something that's tough. But I think Sean, you might have mentioned it before, maybe you did, Spencer, the perpetual royalties, that to me, that might have been one of the first things that I saw, and I was like, wait, what the hell is that? Like, what does that mean? How does that happen? So chances of a creator getting a hit series is kind of so few and far between. However, it does happen. Now imagine, you like Action Comics #1, I think is sold for millions of dollars multiple times, right? Mm-hmm. Now imagine the original creators got, I don't know, even 1% of each sale.
Yeah.
It's exciting. And it just drops into your wallet. You set it and forget it. Now, you mentioned before, you have to have platforms accepting royalties. There's other stuff involved, but down the road, I think this stuff does get baked in, and it's going to be, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah. I mean, are you familiar with 24/7 Comics?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been able to create a really cool model that kind of straddles both physical and digital and allows them to engage on both sides. They, set up a Kickstarter, so they're selling physical collectibles on one end, and the Kickstarter, funds really a lot of the projects, but then they're also doing a digital release as well on VeVe. So they're also doing, the digital collectible where, Kickstarter backers get a free digital collectible, but then they're also selling direct on VeVe as well. But, they're doing it in a way where all their creators are kind of getting a piece of the pie. Love, we're big fans of 24/7 and love Carl and Mickey and all the guys.
Big shout to Carl, who, by the way, has the coolest business card of all time. That's his business card. Hiding the info there.
Yeah, shout out to Carl. Yeah, I connected with Carl a while back.
Love Carl.
That's the error edition, Sean. You got to remember that.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
There's like that the white line across the front is not supposed to be there. So that's
so cool.
It's the early version. Yeah, you get.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
But I think that's the move, right? What they're doing is pretty much, Web3 is another market. It's not the market. You're going to have print. You're going to have the Web2 traditional market, crowdfunding, Kickstarter. I think the smart way for a publisher like 247 Comics is doing, a studio, whatever it might be, is to play it. It's all in play. There are different markets. There's different marketing techniques to each one, different ways to do it, different platforms in each. And if you could leverage each one of them the right way, the smart way, I think you have to,
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think like Bad Idea Comics is a great example. They've been releasing physicals
exclusively for
many years, and just finally started releasing digitals on VeVe and engaging a new audience that way. And it's just a new revenue stream. It's just a new audience. And I think that's like, I think Todd McFarlane, when we had him on our show, that's kind of what his perspective was on Web3 is like, look, I already have all these other things going. Like we're fine in the physical space, but I see this as an opportunity. I see it as a new audience, new eyeballs, and a new way to make revenue. So I think that's at the end of the day, money runs everything. So that's getting any of these big guys to get involved. That's gotta be the bait, But it's at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's true.
Yeah. I think the ability to reward your holders, right, to bring them on the journey with you, to pass value to them, whether it's through, exclusive like connection or access, collaboration, whether it's in the storytelling itself or just joining a more tight community. Mm-hmm. I think that's part of what Web3 helps empower. And then if you figure out the right way to input maybe your own creator token or something to that effect, like once that's figured out, which is something that I am definitely thinking about like what could that and what does that look like.
Yep.
There's definitely some experiments and things to look at, and I know you guys have started doing that as well. So I'd be curious to read more about how you guys are utilizing it. But I think that's definitely something to leverage that could superpower a company like yours or a studio like I'm developing or a publisher for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think as long as you're, doing real things and providing real value for your token holders, I think that's what's most important. It's, there's a lot of these bullshit meme, whatever coins that, people make a bunch of money pumping them up, but they don't really actually provide any real long-term values. And so, that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to create like a collector community and a collector membership program around our token and provide really cool benefits for people who are interested in the collecting hobby, for holding our token. So, that's the goal for what we're trying to build. But, a studio can do so many cool things with the token where, holders get exclusive access or early access or discounts or, but it just allows them to get some kind of exclusive access to that studio and the content they're building.
Yeah, but the struggle, so then it goes again back to who's proving it out first. You're not going to get a major studio doing this like we're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get a major studio doing it because it's just too risky and unknown. So it's going to have to be guys like us who are going to get out there and test the waters and figure out what works. It reminds me, there's this one dude who he's doxed and he's talked about it before. Liberty Square is a project on Solana where, shout out to Brian, who's the original founder, and he wasn't doxed for a while. I don't know what they're doing now. They've kind of been just cooking in the background for a bit, but he turned out to, when Solana was at $8, when FTX, the crash happened, there was a big, I still remember there was a big space that happened, a Solana space on Twitter, where so many people joined and projects joined. And it feels like that was like a galvanizing, like a moment where we're in this shit together, we're not leaving kind of thing. And it went, It's obviously gone up since a little bit, but he came out, he doxed himself that day, and his name is Brian, and he discovered My Chemical Romance. So he's pretty much the manager of Gerard Way. So, cool. And he said it on Spaces, so I'm not talking out of line here. It's just public knowledge. He kind of came into the space as a way to obviously see what's going on, but then potentially to do some stuff for Gerard in the future. And this was a couple of years ago. But to the point before of you need to have people who come in, get dirty, mix it up in the space, become trenchers, just grind here for a couple of years to figure out, okay, how do we do this? And we do this the right way. Let's execute on it. And then we could potentially, other projects, bigger names will use that as inspiration for what they want to do. We build the roadmap, essentially, the playbook.
Yeah, totally. Well, this has been an awesome discussion. We haven't even talked about your project yet that you're launching, so we gotta get into that. But real quick, shout out Mallow for reposting the stream. I'm sure we'll be talking about you guys in just a bit here. But if any of you guys are new here, join us from the Mallow community. We're Comics and Crypto. We talk about all things collectible, both physical and digital. We're diving into the Solana space right now. We've been kind of lightly, preferably collecting, I think, in the space for the last year or so, but trying to get more involved. But if you haven't checked us out, give us a follow, repost the stream. Would really appreciate that. So I guess without further ado, let's talk about your upcoming digital comic release that's happening next week. What can you tell us about it?
Sure. Let's talk about it. So just quickly, shout out to Mallow too. There's, so I wanted to make this a multi-platform campaign, event, whatever you want to call it. It's just something that ever since we shut down our platform, and even before, that's another cool thing about Solana, and I've learned it just from watching Mallow and watching Exchange Art and these other platforms. It's just this open collaboration amongst, these platforms and not just creators is pretty inspiring and pretty dope. So I connected with Mallow after, we shut down the other platform, and they were probably one of the first marketplaces who wanted to build something to fill the void that D-Read, our old company, that kind of left, a void for comics. And they built something that, I don't know if they announced it yet, but it could be used for more than just comics. But when I talked to them and they told me what they wanted to build, it was just super exciting. So what I'm doing with them next week is, on Mallow specifically, we're dropping a 500 supply collection. I'll talk a little bit about my comic. So it's titled Wretches. It was my OG comic book series. I wrote it, over a decade ago. I took it to crowdfunding on Kickstarter. It started as like a small short story. Yeah, there's one of the covers that's from Salomon, who actually worked with me on this short story in an anthology. I don't know if you guys remember or familiar with Alterna Comics. They're still around doing some stuff, but they were doing a bunch of anthologies back then. And I think it put on a lot of creators, gave us our first publication. So I did a short story featuring these characters as kids with Salomon. Shout out to Salo. He's a dope ass artist from Chile. So we did this comic, we did the short story. And then I decided, this world, this kind of Fifth Element meets Blade Runner meets Mandalorian style world is just fun and exciting to play with. And let's unpack it. Let's see what we could turn it into. So I started writing it. We put it out on Kickstarter. It became published in stores with Scout Comics. It actually almost got optioned in 2020. I still have the screenplay somewhere. We did what's called a shopping agreement with a screenwriter and a producer. They weren't able to shop it around and get it optioned, but that shit never goes anywhere. So it was exciting, though. I used that as fuel to keep going, but that was definitely a milestone. And I got the publishing rights back to it, I think, last year. And I was just, when I left the other company, we shut down. I started taking a step back and wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And first thing that came to me was, I have the rights back to this. There's so many dope artist collabs that I want to do when it comes to, cover art and even making other stories. But I reached out to about 7 or 8 different artists on the Solana ecosystem and got them on board, so we're going to have 7 different pieces of cover art.
Oh.
It's going to be a 500 supply collection mixed up of 7 different pieces of different cover art. The cool thing is there, though, that it's funny. I've been typing this shit out for so long that actually saying it out loud, it becomes like, wait, how do I explain what the fuck a drop is? We talked about earlier, like the friction between Web 2 and Web 3. I'm trying to translate it in real time. But so we're including digitals in there as well. So it's a 500 supply. They're going to have everywhere from commons to your legendary. So just imagine your LC comic down there is, 5% of the supply, maybe whatever that number is. If there's 20 LC digital comic covers in there, then 25% of those are going to be physical eligible. So we're baking in physical comics into the supply. It's going to be a gacha box style where you pull randomly. You can get one of these 7 covers, and you might even pull one of the physicals. And the physicals are pretty cool. They're going to be marked with a little symbol at the bottom, so you'll know if it's a physical. The metadata will say whether or not it's a physical. And then once we have the redemption period, depending on what cover you pulled, you're going to get that cover in print if you pulled the print one. So we're going to do a small print run for all of these. It's going to be super exciting. I think the first time anything like that's kind of been done. And then, that's the Mallow drop. That's going down on Tuesday. Then we have, here we go. This is exclusive reveal. So one of the artists, shout out to Scum. He's a legendary OG artist here on Solana. He did this cover art here, and you see it's nice and shiny and sexy because it's a metal print. So our partnership with Exchange Art, which is one of the big one-of-one art marketplaces, or just marketplaces in general. We're going to do a limit of 5 of these for every cover. Well, it's going to be 7. So one of 7. That's every cool. Cover, metal, that's going to go on sale on Thursday. So it's going to be a separate drop. We're going to do a spaces with them on that same day. We're going to talk more about it. We're going to reveal what each one looks like. I just got them in. They all look sick. Like you can see, this one here is insane. So there's going to be 7 of them. I'm going to send one to the artist. I'm going to keep one for myself as the writer and creator. And we're going to put 5 of them up on sale on Exchange Art. And this is another one. I think it looks sick with the lightning effect. You might see it in a minute. When it catches the light, this one's glorious. But this one's done by YG4H, another OG Solana artist who does this kind of unique color blended art. Like it's insane. I actually did a
so cool
Twitter thread on him today. If you guys want to dig deeper, if you hop onto my Twitter page, you can check out what he's been doing.
And these will be available on Mallow.
On Exchange Art.
Exchange Art. Okay.
Exchange Art. Yes. The first one we talked about, the gacha blind box with the 7
right. That
that one's on Mallow. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mallow's where that's where Todd releases one of one NFT. The spawn
It was.
right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Todd only did 1 or 2, and he did them. Yeah. Shout out to Mallow. We don't have the page built up yet, so there's nothing to show here. But yeah, the main comic book collection of 500 and multiple cover variants is going to be on Mallow. The limited physical metal prints are going to be on Exchange Art. We're doing something with Drip. We're going to do some one-of-one the black and white inked versions. We're going to do one-of-ones of them over on the Drip storefront, which is some amazing technology. Shout out to them.
So the stuff on Drip is technically, I guess it's free if you use their drops, right?
Well, Drip. Well, no. So
they changed the model.
It used to be they kind of changed it a little bit. Droplets do cost, I think, 1,000 droplets are $1. Okay. So I'm not sure what I'm going to price the black and whites at. Everything's going to be priced between $20, $30, $40. The metals might be around $40. Mm-hmm. The actual books might be around $30. I am going to do a white list as well. So to you guys, to your audience, to your token holders, however you guys want to do it.
Yeah, that is something that we were going to announce a little bit later on the stream, but since you brought it up, we can talk about it now. But yeah, for our collect holders, we released a collect token last week. Our collect token holders will have whitelist access, basically, which will get you a discount and early access to these drops. So we're going to be giving out more information that over the next week. We're setting up all the token gating right now to be able to coordinate all that. But keep that I guess in the back of your heads. But that's kind of one of the first official utilities that we're announcing for the token. We're planning on trying to get a lot of these whitelists and early access and these types of things for collectors in our community who are interested in getting involved in these types of things. So expect more stuff like this in the future.
Oh yeah, exciting. Yeah, so a lot going on next week. I've got some threads that have gone out that unpack it a little bit in more detail. I'm going to be cooking up some more threads. Going to be doing some more spaces and talking more about it. So yeah, if anybody wants to hit me up, DM me. I'm sliding in some whitelist spots as well. So if people don't have the collect token or just want to hit me up, join the community, hear more about the overall initiative, the different drops, just feel free to reach out.
Awesome. And then I guess you mentioned to us earlier that you're going to be at Comic-Con next week in New York. Are you doing anything around this, in person at Comic-Con?
Not at Comic-Con, no. So that at one point that was a somewhat of a goal, but there's just too many moving pieces with the platform and all this stuff going on. So I kind of wanted to throw this during Comic-Con. So nothing going on IRL in New York during Comic-Con. However, one of the fun things that I can tease it a little bit, not set in stone, so I don't want to put it out there fully, but in Q1 of next year. So one of the other superpowers of the Solana community is the Bonk community, the Exchange Art community, and Solana Foundation. There's a brick and mortar gallery. There's a gallery in New York City, the Lower East Side. Cool. That is being used to showcase Solana art. There are going to be events being thrown and things like that. In Q1 of next year, I want to put together a comic book event there. So digital artwork like this, cover art on some beautiful screens, some limited merch, maybe these metals or other creators' metal comics, metal prints, comic books, whatever it might be. We're going to put something on in Q1, and we'll talk more about it around that time. We'd love to get you guys involved. Utilize the token potentially. We could do some exciting stuff.
Nice, man. Love that. Yeah, well, like I said, we're excited to get more into the Solana space and meet more creators and just get involved in general. So yeah, we're definitely down. I did want to ask. I guess I don't know if you brought this up, Foster. I'm not familiar with that one. How is Foster involved with this?
Yeah, thank you. We can't forget Foster. So Foster is kind of a merch platform on Solana. They do a lot of dope shit, but I'm connected with those guys. Have hung out with them IRL. Great dudes, and they reached out and we just talked about how can we get them involved. This is probably every major art marketplace in Solana is doing something with this drop next week. So Foster, we're going to be doing some t-shirts, and we just did something. We had an exciting image of a pair of slides, like which someone hears artwork on them, and it looks kind of insane and dope, and we're gonna do some merch with them as well, and that's most likely going down on Friday. So wanted to make this like a fun collectible event. Didn't want to do it all in one day. We're going to spread it out throughout next week.
That's awesome.
And yeah, man, shout out to every one of the platforms and all of the people behind each one of the platforms for their support.
Yeah. Well, it was obviously a ton of work for you to get all this set up the way you have. I'm super excited for, especially the way you're releasing with 4 different platforms. Really, really cool. I think it's a very unique way of launching this. So yeah, for everyone in our community who's kind of new to RoachWrites and to all the things that I guess Muse Inc. is the name of your actual comic book studio, right?
Oh yeah, Muse Inc. is going to be the studio. Yep, that's right.
Cool. Yeah. So for everybody who's not familiar, definitely give Roach a follow. I think it's your Twitter account is RoachWrites, correct? At RoachWrites.
Yeah. Everyone down the details, the YouTube details, we have the Twitter accounts for both Muse Inc. and also RoachWrites. So make sure to give them both a follow.
Oh yeah, RoachWrites _. And if you are on YouTube, I did before the Web3 space. I used to host a YouTube channel. It's I think if you just go to writingcomics.net, writingcomics.net, I had interviewed probably about 10 writers and editors. This might have been like 5 years ago. I interviewed a comic book IP lawyer back then. So a bunch of content if you're a creator or if you're just interested in the process and things like that. There's a good amount of content on YouTube under that platform. There you go. Writing_comics.
There we go.
Writingcomics.net will take you right to it.
Beautiful.
Awesome, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I guess, Roach, as we close out, any kind of closing words about the drop or, anything else you want people to know?
No, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. Appreciate the support. Look forward to connecting more with you guys, with your community. Again, my DMs are open. If you're a creator or collector, you want to learn more. I know there's a good amount going on here. Blah blah blah. My dyslexia kicks in sometimes. Apologies for that. But there's a good amount going on next week. I'm super pumped, super excited. Just trying to make it a 1-week event. And then who knows, we'll leave the comics up there for as long as they take to sell out. And maybe if I talk to the collectors after a week or two, we might just cap the collection wherever it is. So maybe even more of a limited supply of physicals and collectibles that we set out with. But appreciate you guys.
That would be cool, but we're hoping for a sellout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Well, thanks so much for joining us again, man. As an awesome conversation about comics and really just about kind of where the space is going in general. Really excited for the drop next week. For all you out there, we're Comics and Crypto. Your source for everything collectible. We have the Collect token that we released on Solana last week. We're building basically a collector community and collector membership program that allows you to get exclusive access to different partners, different companies around the collecting hobby. So if you're a collector, you love comics, you love comic art, you love all this kind of stuff, we're going to be trying to really just build as many different benefits and utilities and cool perks for holders of our token. So that is what we are working on right now. So if you haven't purchased it, you can go to our Twitter account. We have the contract address there, or go to our website, comicsandcrypto.io. You can also find it there. But yeah, plan on doing a lot of really, really cool stuff. We've been doing giveaways, exclusive giveaways for our holders. Plan on continuing to do that. We'll literally just, take one of our holder addresses and send a cool item. Yesterday we sent out a really cool Todd McFarlane NFT on Solana. We did a really cool Solana giveaway last week. So yeah, look out for more of those. We're going to be doing another live stream tomorrow at 2 p.m. PST, right, Sean?
That's right. Oh, no. It's noon. At noon
PST tomorrow. Yeah, with Sergio Collects from our sponsor Fanable. We're going to be talking about a lot of really cool stuff. Where it's our weekly Q and Hang episode where we talk about a bunch of different topics in the collectible space, and basically talking about big sales, things that we're just really excited about happening in the space that we'll be highlighting. And then we'll also be giving away a couple cool things. We'll be giving away a VeVe digital collectible, and we'll also be giving away a Fanable blind box, basically kiosk box of basically a physical comic that's been digitized on chain. So we're going to be giving away both those things on our stream tomorrow. So definitely come hang with us, and we're going to have a great time. So definitely. Yeah, I feel like I just said a lot of things. Sean, anything I missed?
No, that was it. Yeah, make sure to give them a follow. Remember, again, their details are in the comment and down the details on our YouTube. And thanks for joining, Roach. This has been a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, very enjoyable. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Guys.